So I started looking at other things. Yeah, we don't want to harp too much on that story. I mean, that's a great story to tell the kids. It's a great story to put in our hearts and put in our minds. But there's more to being a man after God's own heart than just being fearless. I like to think that maybe he wasn't so fearless. I mean, there was fear. There was fear in his heart. There was something that, you're facing a guy 20 times the size of you. You're going to be kind of afraid. But his faith had overpowered his fear. His assurity that God was going to bring victory overpowered his fear. So I'm not telling you, go into these situations, face your giants with no fear in your heart. But when you feel that fear, realize that God has overcome everything. That God is more powerful than anything. To quote VeggieTales, God is bigger than the boogeyman. He's bigger than Godzilla and the monsters on TV.
Bigger than Frank and Celery.
Huh?
Bigger than Frank and Celery.
Bigger than Frank and Celery, whatever. Now that I got that song stuck in your head, that's good. God is bigger than anything. And it's up to us to put that faith, our faith in him and follow after his own heart. Flip over to 1 Samuel chapter 18. We're going to progress through. So there's a logical, I don't know, we're going logically into the scripture. And we're only going to read part of this, part of several chapters, because I want to show you how this happened. Remember, Saul is still king when David is anointed king, right? Saul is still king. Then you got this little rugrat that's going to come in and say, I'm king too. So what could David do? David had all rights and authorities to kill Saul and take over his throne. And nobody could say anything about it. Why? Because Samuel had anointed him king. It could happen. Or he could take Saul, kick him off the throne, lock him in jail, something. But David had some things he had to do. Saul took David, smart man, took David into his court, had David play the harp. And David played the harp beautifully. And Saul knew that he was going to be king. So sometimes when David's in the middle of a playing, Saul would just pick up the spear and throw it at him. Yeah, talk about job security, Yes, I'm playing the harp. Okay, spear, duck. And why? Well, let me read this to you. First chapter 18, verses 5 through 7. It says, whatever Saul sent him to do, David did it so successfully that Saul gave him a high rank in the army. This pleased all the people and Saul's officers as well. When the men were returning home after David killed the Philistine, Goliath, the women came out from all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul, and singing and dancing, and with joyful songs and with tambourines and lutes. As they danced, they sang, Saul has slain his thousands. David is 10,000s. Now can you understand why Saul was a little perturbed? Can you see why Saul was a little jealous? This kid is taking my throne and now he's taking my people. People say, yeah, I slain thousands. Yes, that pumps me up with pride. And then David slayed his 10,000s. That's more than 1,000. Let's do the math. It is more than 1,000. David, and if you notice, whatever Saul sent him to do, David did it successfully. He did it with excellence. He did it well. He did it better than anybody else could have done it. Because the Lord was with him, it says. Excellence. We have excellence is something. I'm an actor. I'm a dramatist, an artist. And one of the things that annoys the bejesus out of me, that grinds my jaws, because I haven't said that in a while, is the fact that Christian movies. You ever watch Christian movies? I watched we have Relevant Flicks. And Relevant Flicks is, I was saying I would never do a Christian movie, but he showed a Christian movie last night, and it was the creepiest movie I've ever seen. Part of it was because of Randy Travis's acting.
Amen.
The man can't act worth snot. Okay? And the problem is, his acting is praised in the Christian community. Kirk Cameron loved him as Michael Seaver on Growing Pains. He was great as Michael Seaver on Growing Pains. He was a kid then. But now the Gospel Movie Music Channel had Kirk Cameron Day in every Christian movie he's ever been in, and I think he's forgotten how to act since he became a Christian. Okay? Yeah, I come to Jesus. Now I forget how to act. And every Christian movie I've ever seen, I sit there because and the most painful experience I possibly can have. Because I'm like, I walk out in camps when they show Christian movies. People are like, why are you not? I go, because it's the same movie I've seen 100 times. You got a different character and different plot, different, I don't know, circumstances, but it's the same movie. The actors are horrible. The plot line sucks. The directing is cheesy. And I know how it's going to end. Surprise me, for crying out loud. It's not excellent. It's not excellent. It's, let's get a movie out there just because we're Christians. Let's get the Word of God out there in a movie. Great. If you're going to get the Word of God out in a movie, let it be something people want to pay $20 to see. Let it have awesome special effects. Figure out how to do them. George Lucas did it in the first Star Wars with a low budget. Now he's got millions of dollars and he can do a budget on it. Why can't we do that? That's a rabbit trail. Or I don't know if that. David did everything he did with excellence. He was successful at it. He slain his 10,000s. Everything he did, he cared about doing it well and doing it with excellence. I think we've lost that. We want to touch the heart of God. We do it. We pursue excellence. I don't ask you to be perfect. God forbid I ask you to do it with perfection. No. I ask you to do it with excellence. When God made this world, he just didn't kind of put mountains up to where they'll fall over if you look at them the wrong way. He didn't make the great redwood forest so that if you lean on it, it'll fall over. And so if he had done that, we called it, it's the okay redwood forest. He didn't carve out the Grand Canyon. I know the Colorado River carved out the Grand Canyon, whatever. He didn't set it up to look so beautiful that when we stepped out there, we're like, yeah, this ain't done. What? He could have done better here. He created this world. And he said, and he looked back and he saw it all and he said, it was good. It was excellent. He didn't create you just by putting little pieces, scrap parts together and say, hey, oh look, that hand will look good on this body. And okay, that's a different color, it don't matter. He designed us excellently. So why are we settling for mediocre Christianity or mediocre art or mediocre lives? Whatever we do it to the glory of God. Whether in word or deed, do it as if you're doing it with God. That's how David lived his life. Jump down to 12 through 16 real fast. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with David, but he had left Saul. So he sent David away from him and gave him command over 1,000 men. Excuse me. And David led the troops in their campaigns, and everything he did, he had great success because the Lord was with him. When Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David because he led them in their campaigns. All Israel and Judah loved David because he was a leader. Get that? He led them. And he was successful.